Welcome to the amazing world of mysteries from the Bible. In this film, we will explore the world of biblical myths and mysteries and look into the wonders of the New and Old Testament. Our story starts in Egypt, where the wicked Pharaoh of Egypt commanded that all the sons of Hebrew women in the land of Egypt should die. The Pharaoh's men swooped down on the homes of the unsuspecting Jews and forcibly removed the male children of each Jewish household. Each of these children died at the swords of the Pharaoh's men. At this time, there was a woman in Egypt who gave birth to a son. She hid the child for 3 months, but finally she realized she could no longer conceal the infant from the men of the Pharaoh. So she put the infant into a basket and set the basket amongst the reeds by the shoreline of a river. Nearby, the daughter of the Pharaoh was taking her morning bath when she saw the basket floating gently among the reeds and sent her maids to fetch it. They were astounded to discover a baby boy inside the basket, as the Bible relates the story. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, "Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow?" And he said, "Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian?" Then Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And so Moses went away and dwelt in the wilderness for a long time, to keep counsel by himself. And in the desert he was a shepherd. One day Moses was out tending the flocks when a remarkable occurrence took place. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, "I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses, here am I. Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground." And the Lord said, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows." The voice of the Lord instructed Moses to free his people and lead them out of slavery in Egypt. The voice of God commanded Moses to go to the Pharaoh and demand the freedom of the Jews in the name of God. And Moses answered and said, "But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice." And the Lord said unto him, "What is that in thine hand?" And he said, "A rod." And he said, "Cast it on the ground." And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. And the Lord said unto Moses, "Put forth thine hand and take it by the tail." And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, "Put now thine hand into thy bosom." And he put his hand into his bosom. he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, "Put thine hand into thy bosom again." And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. And Moses went and returned to Jethro his father-in-law, and said unto him, "Let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive." And Jethro said, "Moses, go in peace." And the Lord said unto Moses in Midian, "Go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life." And Moses took his wife and his sons, and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of God in his hand. And Moses was joined in his task by his brother Aaron. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness." And the king of Egypt said unto them, "Wherefore do ye, Moses and Aaron, let the people from their works? Get you unto your burdens." And the Pharaoh commanded them to leave his presence. Moses walked out of the palace of the Pharaoh, dumbstruck by the cruelty of the despotic monarch of Egypt. He could not tell what he should do next. The people asked him, "Moses, what shall we do?" And Moses said, "We must trust in the Lord." And Moses sent a message again unto the Pharaoh, but the Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen. And so God brought a series of terrible plagues on Egypt. First, he turned all the water in Egypt into blood, so that Pharaoh had to refuse the water. Then God sent a plague of frogs upon the land, then a plague of lice to torment the Egyptians, and again the Pharaoh would not relent. With reports of new plagues breaking out all over his land, the Pharaoh was soon in a panic. Then the Lord sent a plague of hail, then a swarm of locusts, to cover the land with a blanket of flying destruction. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Then God caused the angel of death to pass over the land. But the Jews were protected by crosses of lamb's blood on their doors. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the two side posts, and on the upper doorpost of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, "Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also." And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, "We be all dead men." And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. But the Pharaoh recanted in his decision, and sent his armies after Moses and his people as they tried to escape. But the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, beside Pin-Hahiroth, before Baal-zephon. And then Pharaoh drew nigh. The children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, return to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against him. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. But Moses' followers were afraid that they would die of thirst in the desert. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river. Take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? And Moses wandered in the desert with his followers and took them to Mount Sinai. Moses and his followers came to the base of the mountain, and they looked at the place, and they were sore afraid. A great storm blew up over the mountain, and lightning flashed in the sky. Moses and his followers stared in wonder as they heard the voice of the Lord. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. And the voice of God told them that they were unfit to keep the laws of the God, and that they had to strive to keep a covenant with the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Lord, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, Set bounds about the mount, and sanctify it. So Moses sanctified the mountain, and he went up the mountain alone to be with God. As Moses traveled up the mountain, he he did not realize that in his absence his followers would betray both him and the Lord. And Moses' followers built an idol of a golden calf while Moses was away on the top of the mountain. And they worshipped it, and they danced, and they drank wine, and they sinned a great sin in the eyes of the Lord. And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, graven upon the tables. And it came to pass as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands, and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire. And Moses said unto Aaron, What did this people unto thee? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. For they said unto me, Make us gods which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, Ye have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto the Lord. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And Moses returned unto the Lord and said, O this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods of gold. Yet now if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. And the Lord said unto Moses, Whosoever hath sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place of which I have spoken unto thee. Behold, mine angel shall go before thee. Behold, mine angel shall go before. Nevertheless, in the day when I will visit their sin upon them. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. And it came to pass when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. And Moses called unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him. And Moses talked with them. And afterward all the children of Israel came nigh, and he gave them in commandment all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Commanded Moses and his people to communally build a covenant to house the tablets of the laws of the 10 commandments. And they came, both men and women, as many were willing-hearted, and brought bracelets and earrings and rings and tablets, all jewels of gold. And every man that offered an offering of gold unto the Lord. And every man with whom was found blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and red skins of rams and badger skins brought them. Every one that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought the Lord's offering. And every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple and of scarlet and of fine linen. And Moses and his followers went on a journey from Kadesh to the land of Canaan. And the voice of the Lord constantly urged Moses onward through the scorching desert heat, wandering through the desert for a reason he did not understand. after day, they walked in the desert amidst danger and poisonous snakes. They wandered in the desert for a long time, and Moses became the patriarch of his tribe, performing many miracles in the desert during their years of wandering. Then in Moses' later years, the people came to him and said, "Show us a sign from the Lord." Moses appealed to the Lord, and the Lord sent a sign. A snake coiled around a wooden shaft. The crowd was astonished at this miraculous work of the Lord. Then as Moses grew very old, he called his people about him, and Moses said unto his children, "Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath brought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." And Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead, unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, unto the utmost sea, and the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, unto Zor. And the Lord said unto him, "This is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither." So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor. But no man knoweth of the sepulchre unto this day. In biblical times, there was a group of fishermen who fished the waters of the sea. These fishermen were poor, and they depended solely on their catch to feed them. They were at the mercy of the elements. Two of the fishermen had heard Jesus speak, and they felt that he was truly speaking with the voice of the Lord. As they fixed their nets, the fishermen talked. Some of them did not believe that it was really true what they were saying about Jesus, that he was truly the Son of God. Suddenly, on a hilltop overlooking the fishermen, Jesus appeared. And it came to pass he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and saw two ships standing by the lake. But the fishermen were gone out of them and were washing their nets. Jesus talked with the fishermen, and he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. And going on from thence, he saw other two brethren, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in a ship, with Zebedee their father mending their nets. And he called them. They immediately left the ship and their father, and followed him. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers diseases and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. Wherever Jesus went, he taught, and the crowds gathered to hear him speak. Wherever he spoke, it was obvious to all who listened that he spoke the words of the Lord. He taught the virtues of faith, love of God, and charity. But one day, as Jesus spoke in a public place to a large group of citizens, a certain man from the crowd began heckling Jesus, calling him a fraud, and certainly not the Son of God. Jesus calmly walked from his podium and into the crowd. The man repeatedly insulted him, taunting him with the most vile language. Suddenly, just as the man was about to strike Jesus, he fell down in a seizure as Jesus raised his hands over his head. The crowd was astonished. Jesus' followers watched as the crowd brought the man to, and they left silently. No one could doubt that Jesus was possessed with extraordinary powers. Jesus walked out of the meeting place and into the city, leaving a crowd of followers on the steps of the temple. Then Jesus led his disciples to the house of Simon, whose mother was afflicted with a great illness. As Jesus walked into the house, his disciples wondered, could Jesus heal the woman? Inside the house, Simon spoke with great concern for his mother and begged Jesus to heal her. Jesus gently placed his hand on Simon and told him to calm himself, that his mother would be all right. So saying, Jesus went into the woman's room. He sat down by the bedside and gently took the woman's hand in his. Then suddenly, miraculously, the woman rose from the bed. And he stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her. And immediately she arose and ministered unto them. sun was setting, all they that had any sick with divers diseases brought them unto him, and he laid his hands on every one of them, and healed them. And devils also came out of many, crying out and saying, Thou art Christ, the Son of God. And he, rebuking them, suffered them not to speak, for they knew that he was Christ. One by one, Jesus healed the sick, and as they rose up cured instantly of their afflictions, they rejoiced, and Jesus was glad. And in the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place, and there prayed. And Simon and they that were with him followed after him. And when they had found him, they said unto him, All men seek for thee. And he said unto them, Let us go into the next towns, that I may preach there also. For therefore came I forth. And he preached in their synagogues throughout all Galilee, and cast out devils. Jesus and his disciples traveled from town to town, spreading the word of the Lord. Everywhere they went, Jesus told the people of the coming of the Lord. They found themselves in Sidechar. As they walked down the dusty road, they found that they were tired, so they rested by a well at the edge of the road. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sidechar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. disciples and marveled that he talked with the woman. Yet no man said, "What seekest thou? Or why talkest thou with her?" City, and saith to the men, "Come, see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ?" Then they went out of the city and came unto him. In the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, "Master, eat." But he said unto them, "I have meat to eat that ye know not of." Therefore said the disciples one to another, "Hath any man brought him aught to eat?" Jesus saith unto them, "My meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work. Say not ye, There are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. And he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that rejoiceth together. And herein is that saying true, One soweth and another reapeth. I sent you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye are entered into their labors." And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him, for the saying of the woman which testified, "He told me all that ever I did." So when the Samaritans were come unto him, they besought him that he would tarry with them. And he abode there 2 days. And many more believed because of his own word, and said unto the woman, "Now we believe, not because of thy saying, for we have heard him ourselves, and know that this is indeed the Christ, the Savior of the world." Now after 2 days he departed thence and went into Galilee. For Jesus himself testified that a prophet hath no honor in his own country. And Jesus walked off down the road with his disciples. Camping along the way, the disciples continued upon their journey and came upon a widow whose son had died. And it came to pass the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Now when he came nigh to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and much people of the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, Weep not. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God hath visited his people. And this rumor of him went forth throughout all Judea and throughout all the region round about. And in another part of the land there lived a ruler of the synagogue by the name of Jairus, whose daughter was very ill. Jairus was very grieved at the thought of losing his daughter, and all of the medicines and potions the doctors had administered were of no avail. With every passing day, the daughter's condition grew worse. The ruler despaired over his daughter's fate, and it seemed as if he had used up every possible means to help the girl. The mother of the child had resigned herself to the girl's death. Walked feverishly into the marketplace, not knowing what to do. And Jesus walked into the marketplace as well, along with a group of his disciples. Jairus ran into the marketplace seeking Jesus, begging him to come with him to help his daughter. And much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. For she said, "If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole." And straightway she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, "Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of thy plague." While he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, "Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he saith unto the ruler of the synagogue, "Be not afraid, only believe." And he suffered no man to follow him save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, "Why make ye this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth." And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entereth in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand and said unto her, "Talitha cumi," which is being interpreted, "Damsel, I say unto thee, arise." And straightway the damsel arose, and they were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that something should be given her to eat. After this, Jesus wandered with his disciples, and everywhere they went, Jesus spread the word of the Lord. Jesus and his disciples traveled in many cities, braving the dangers of soldiers unsympathetic to the word of God. But through all of this, Jesus never gave up his practice of performing miracles. And in a certain place in the land, there lived a blind man who made a meager living by begging on the streets. From birth and had to sit silently in a filthy corner of the city until at the end of each day he would walk home with the little money he had made, which he used to support both himself and his parents whom he lived with. As the man walked home, he thought about how fate had cursed him with his blindness. But he was lucky in having a loving mother who supported him through his troubles and a father who also gave him comfort and solace. Together, although they were poor, they formed a happy family unit, and the man's life was not as miserable as it might have been. The next morning, when the man returned to his customary corner of the city, Jesus happened to come upon him. And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, "Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him." When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And said unto him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which is by interpretation, sent. He went his way, therefore, came, seeing. The neighbors, therefore, and they which before had seen him that he was blind, said, Is not this he that sat and begged? Some said, This is he. Others said, He is like him. But he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, How were thine eyes opened? He answered and said, A man that is called Jesus made clay, and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. And the man went home to his parents, and they were astonished that their son could suddenly see. As they watched him, they could not believe their own eyes. Jesus had cured their son's blindness. Certainly this was unquestionably a miracle. Who was this strange visitor who had restored their son's vision and given him new hope, a new life as a full man, rather than a worthless shell of humanity huddling in a darkened doorway of the teeming city? And mother, father, and son rejoiced together. And the man's neighbors came unto him, and they asked him, How did this thing happen? And the man said, I was sitting in the marketplace when Jesus anointed my eyes with clay and told me to wash my eyes in the water of Siloam. And now I can see. It is truly a miracle. What other explanation can there be? Then said they unto him, Where is he? He said, I know not. They brought to the Pharisees him that aforetime was blind. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. Then again the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. He said unto them, He put clay upon mine eyes, and I washed, and do see. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, This man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. Others said, How can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was a division among them. They say unto the blind man again, What sayest thou of him that he hath opened thine eyes? He is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe concerning him that he had been blind and received his sight, until they called the parents of him that had received his sight. And they asked him, saying, Is this your son, who ye say was born blind? How then doth he now see? His parents answered them and said, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But by what means he now seeth, we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes, we know not. He is of age. Ask him. He shall speak for himself." These words spake his parents because they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already that if any man did confess that he was Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Therefore said his parents, "He is of age. Ask him." Then again called they the man that was blind, and said unto him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered and said, "Whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I can see." Then said they to him again, "What did he to thee? How opened he thine eyes?" And the man told them the story. Jesus walked through the streets of the city while all the populace were astonished at the stories of his amazing miracle. It appeared that Jesus had actually cured the blind man. The Pharisees, jealous of Jesus' popularity, sent spies after him to watch him and to report back on anything seditious that Jesus might say. Jesus went about unconcernedly, continually preaching the word of the Lord. Finally, Jesus again met the blind man. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, he said unto him, "Dost thou believe on the Son of God?" He answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him?" And Jesus said unto him, "Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee." And he said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. And Jesus said, "For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind." And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, "Are we blind also?" Jesus said unto them, "If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see, therefore your sin remaineth. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out." This parable spake Jesus unto them, but they understood not what things they were, which he spake unto them. Then said Jesus unto them again, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father." The next day, Jesus was walking with his disciples in the town when they came upon a money changer in the temple. Jesus was outraged at the presence of the money changer in the holy house of worship, and he scourged and whipped the money changer out of the temple. The money changer never returned to the temple again. In Jesus' time, social conditions were incredibly unfair. If a powerful man could afford it, he could hire soldiers to block off an entire town and charge a fee to enter or leave the city. In this manner, unscrupulous men of biblical times could consolidate their wealth and power by taking 10 pieces of silver from everyone in the town who wished to go there for either business or pleasure. Occasionally, someone might not have the required entry or exit fee, and trouble would ensue. Jesus is speaking in the center of the town, and these men slip by the guard to the city gate without paying. Within the city, one man tells another of Jesus' coming, and all gather in the town, rushing off from their various jobs to hear the Son of God. More and more people enter the gates of the city, most of them not paying the required fees. A few people pay, but most who have come to hear Jesus speak simply ignore the toll collector. A soldier approaches the toll collector, asking what all the commotion is about. Jesus is speaking in the center of town, the man says, and I'm going off to meet him. And the man rushes away, leaving the astonished soldier. In the town, the news spreads. The Messiah is here. The Messiah is here. These people have a special reason to be glad of Jesus' visit. They have a friend inside their house who is stricken with a terrible palsy. They rush inside, assuring their friend that all will be well. Jesus will cure the palsy. The men then take their friend to Jesus. He entered into Capernaum after some days, and it was noised that he was in the house. And straightway many more were gathered together, and he preached the word unto them. And they come unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was born of 4. And when they could not come nigh unto him for the press, they uncovered the roof where he was. Broken it up, they let down the bed wherein the sick of the palsy lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. But there were certain of the scribes sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, Why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only? And immediately when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned within themselves, he said unto them, Why reason ye these things in your hearts? Whether is it easier to say to the sick of the palsy, Thy sins be forgiven thee? Or to say, Arise and take up thy bed and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, one saith to the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise and take up thy bed, and go thy way into thine house. And immediately he arose, took up the bed, and went forth before them all, insomuch that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, We never saw it on this fashion. completely cured. His friends were amazed. How had this miracle occurred? It was his faith that had cured him, and now he was a whole man again. As the man walked down the road, Christ came out of the house as the multitudes gathered around him, astonished at the miracle he had performed. In the back of the crowd, the toll collector at the city gate watched in amazement. He was beginning to believe, to have faith in Jesus' teachings and miracles. Surely this man must be the Son of God. The toll collector wondered at what he had seen. Was Jesus truly sent from heaven? The man felt that he had to know for sure. And after these things, he went forth and saw a publican named Levi sitting at the receipt of custom. And he said unto him, Follow me. And he left all, rose up, and followed him. Levi made him a great feast in his own house, and there was a great company of publicans and of others that sat down with them. But their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, Why do ye eat and drink with publicans and sinners? And Jesus answering said unto them, They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And they said unto him, Why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers, and likewise the disciples of the Pharisees, but thine eat and drink? And he said unto them, Can ye make the children of the bride chamber fast, while the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days. And he spake also a parable unto them. No man putteth a piece of a new garment upon an old. If otherwise, then both the new maketh a rent, and the piece that was taken out of the new agreeth not with the old. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. No man also having drunk old wine straightway desireth new, for he saith, The old is better. And the Pharisees hearing this were much angered, and they left the feast hurriedly. Jesus watched them go silently. He knew that he would hear from these men again, but he was not afraid. The toll collector listened in wonderment as he sat next to Jesus at the banquet table. Truly, this man was the Son of God. These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. Then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. So Martha went her way and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus therefore again groaning in himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee that if thou wouldst believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. Spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came up with Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him. Traveled throughout the land, continually performing more miracles. He walked from town to town with his disciples, preaching wherever he could. He gave sermons everywhere, on mountains, in churches, and kept performing miracles that astonished all those who followed him. He never kept any material possessions, but believed totally that his was the kingdom of heaven. But several weeks later, Christ's life on earth was cut short. Simon, a traveler to Jerusalem, could not know that he was arriving in that city on the most fateful day of Jesus' life. For on this day, Jesus, condemned to death by Pontius Pilate, was to be crucified by a group of soldiers. Then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they put on him a purple robe and said, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they smote him with their hands. And they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on the head. And after they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. And there were also two other malefactors led with him to be put to death. As they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, the Cyrenian, coming out of the country. And on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Bring him unto the place of Golgotha, which is being interpreted, the place of the skull. Wine mingled with myrrh, but he received it not. When they had crucified him, they parted his garments, casting lots upon them what every man should take. And the superscription of his accusation was written over. King of the Jews. And it was the third hour, and they crucified him. And with him they crucified two thieves, the one on his right hand and the other on his left. And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, And he was numbered with the transgressors. And they that passed by railed on him, wagging their heads and saying, Ah, thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself and come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking, said among themselves with the scribes, He saved others, himself he cannot save. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They said therefore among themselves, Let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which saith, They parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture they did cast lots. These things therefore the soldiers did. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. 2 men came from the crowd to mock Jesus and to torment him. Save yourself, they cried. Jesus gave no reply. Let Christ, the King of Israel, descend now from the cross, that we may see and believe. And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, If thou be Christ, save thyself and us. But the other, answering, rebuked him, saying, Dost thou not fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man hath done nothing amiss. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple standing by whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour that disciple took her unto his own home. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. centurion saw what was done, he glorified God, saying, "Certainly, this was a righteous man." And all the people that came together to that sight, beholding the things which were done, smote their breasts and returned. And all his acquaintance and the women that followed him from Galilee stood afar off, beholding these things. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" And some of them that stood by when they heard it said, "Behold, he calleth Elias." And one ran and filled a sponge full of vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink, saying, "Let alone, let us see whether Elias will come to take him down." And Jesus cried with a loud voice, And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, "Father, into thy hands commend my spirit." And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened. And many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. But when the centurion and they that were with him watching Jesus saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, "Truly, this was the Son of God."